Hey, we have electricity,
We
power.
do.
The lights are on.
They are. They were out on Monday, last Monday. This is the third podcast that we have talked about losing power.
The third podcast in the 9 months we've been podcasting where we haven't had power.
Our
so
first-
we're averaging like one power outage a quarter at this point while we've been doing the podcast.
Yeah, and I don't even think we've mentioned some of the outages. We had only the memorable ones. Our
True.
first podcast launched like end of January, and we've been consistently every Tuesday since February.
Yeah.
And this is our third time talking about a significant power outage. So picture it, it's a Monday evening, work is basically just wrapping up, and the power goes out. And we assumed, we're like, oh, did somebody hit a pole on our street?
Yeah, because in the years we've lived at this house, that one pole by the gas station
People drive
has
like
been
maniacs.
hit twice, and they've had to replace it, and it's been
And-
taking like 8 hours to
Yeah,
get the
I
power
read
back.
these stories about people in Florida where these, Cat 4 hurricanes hit, and they're like, yeah, we only lost power for a half hour, or we didn't lose power at all. And I'm like, meanwhile, I'm here in, Appalachia, and I don't have power for 6 hours because someone hit a pole. But that's actually not what happened this time. So you go out to investigate, and all the power's out.
It was weird. The whole, I
no
think half the
lights.
county was out, and
Yeah.
we went out later, you and I, to get some food, and it was like all town lights
Like a
were
ghost
out,
town.
the traffic lights were out. It was really kind of a horror movie, post-apocalyptic,
It
weird,
really did remind me of a horror movie.
weird situation.
Basically, too, we learned that people don't know the rules of traffic when the traffic lights are out. It's a four-way stop.
Yeah, if it's a regular like four-way stop sign or stop light,
Yeah, you
when the
treat
light
it
is
as like a
on,
four-way
you treat it
stop
as a
sign.
four-way stop. So whoever got there
People don't
first
know that.
goes, and it's just like crazy town, like people just not paying attention. And it's
was
like
crazy.
I get the people who want to be polite and like wave people and stuff, but in the situation that you're in there, you're actually causing more problems
Yeah.
than not. Than just following the traffic rules and letting everybody go.
So basically, we had to go to another town over because no traffic in our town. Try that in a small town. Do not like that song. So we had a lovely picnic in the car of Taco Bell.
Oh, speaking of which,
Gourmet food. We're doing ASMR again with
Yeah.
the opening.
I'm just opening my
Little
Baja
gentle
Blast. I
phone
didn't
tapping.
realize. I thought Baja Blast was just at Taco Bell
I think it used to just be at Taco Bell.
I took you to Taco Bell to get you a Baja Blast because you never had one.
I never had a Baja
and
Blast. Y'all
then I
are
was
weird.
at the store the other day, and I was like, "Oh, they had." It's probably been years that they've had Baja Blast in a can, but I just didn't know it.
I don't know, does anybody know? People freak out about that drink. Now we got both. We got the regular Baja Blast, and then I also tried the zero sugar version, so like their diet version. The diet wasn't that bad. You finished mine off because I only had a few sips.
It was tolerable. Yeah, like I'm not a diet. I don't like diet, but it was tolerable.
My original assessment of the Baja Blast mid. I was like, I don't get the big deal. It's okay. But when you brought home those little mini cans and I drank one after after I'd already regularly hydrated after a nice long run, I've bumped it up to pretty good.
Okay.
Still
So your
nothing
rating
to write
has-
home about.
So, but your rating has increased.
Yes.
I wonder if I wonder if that was just me like not mixing right because like I had the self-serve thing at the Taco Bell.
Not mixing right.
Yeah, at the Taco Bell. Like so I
Yeah.
put the ice in it and then put the pop in it and it was probably just off from that perspective.
Yeah, but all you do is ice and then fill it
But
with
how much
pop.
ice matters because if you fill it all the way up with ice and then you do the pop, it waters down versus if you don't. Like
I always think
how are you
that
supposed to get it?
pop tastes better in a can than a fountain unless you get lucky and you go to one of those places, the rare occasion where it's a good fountain drink with the good ice, like the little crumbly ice, and if they have their carbonation ratio up. What I have found in the past is that I feel like the Pepsi has some kind of deal in this town. So like I know
Well,
everybody likes
no,
Mountain
I
Dew.
mean, Taco Bell is
Pepsi products
owned-
everywhere.
Taco Bell is owned by
Yes,
Pepsi, so that's
but
why they have all Pepsi.
I'm talking about
products.
like some of our like local
You-
establishments, just Pepsi stuff. And I'm a Diet Coke person. Say what you want about it. I don't care, and I'm going to stick beside it.
I'm going to tell you right now, though, your ranking there is wrong.
Wrong.
If you have the option of getting, and I'm going to go with Coke here because it's the classic. If you get a regular Coke at a fountain at McDonald's, top tier.
I never go to
number one.
McDonald's.
then it's a glass bottle Coke,
I'm-
then it's a can of Coke, and then it's the plastic.
If I'm going to
bottles.
McDonald's and I'm getting like a beverage there, I don't think they have it anymore though. I would get a high C orange.
I'm not debating with. I'm just saying like a Coke from a fountain Coke from McDonald's
Yeah.
is top tier. But other than that, it would be like glass bottle and can. Yeah, I would agree.
Glass bottle, of course, is superior.
Wonder if I bet they don't do Baja Blast in a glass bottle.
They should do a glass bottle of Baja Blast. Anyway, everybody.
Hey, welcome to We Watch TV, the podcast about TV we watch. I am Daniel. She is Hope. We are in our quasi studio.
Yeah, I don't
call
like it very much though.
She's still not. Hope is adverse to change.
I am.
And so she's still getting used to it. But I got us a table and a couple mic arms and set us up a corner
I feel like I
in
can't
our
focus.
spare bedroom / Hope's office.
Yes.
And so we're trying it out in here, and probably going to be multiple different iterations of it. So maybe we'll post a picture one of these days once we figure out Hope's perfect comfort level.
Or I'm going to make you just let me go back to the couch to do it.
See, because my comfort level is not really important because before this I was just on the floor.
You chose to be on the floor.
That's because I can't stand sitting on that couch.
You could have used like
microphone.
my laptop tray. Anyway, back to like our little picnic thing. So we had our Taco Bell in the car picnic. We set up. We watched some Modern Family. So that is something that we watched this week.
I honestly can't believe our service was good enough to be able to stream that.
Yeah. Because you streamed it right off Hulu. We watched the Halloween episode from I think season 9. Maybe
I don't remember.
know.
I was just eating tacos
and
burritos. Actually, the new one, they have the one with like they melt the cheese on the outside. It's kind of greasy and messy to eat, but it was actually really good.
They forgot my cheese on my bowl, which was a huge violation.
Yeah, they did do that.
But at least my nachos,
they were really busy.
Grande was good.
They were really busy.
And apparently, the potatoes that I ordered, they have that. I was like, I didn't know this. I don't really go to Taco Bell very much, so I don't eat it like I really don't eat a ton of fast food except for the occasional Wendy's, which is like right by my house. But I got those potatoes with like the cheese on them, and elite, top tier.
They were good. You let me try them after you stripped all of the cheese out, but they were actually
I was like you with the chicken last week, the Gollum thing, like mine, because I was already like stressed out. The power was out. I was annoyed because I wanted to have when you get off work, you want to relax, maybe get some errands done, but you just need to we had no decompression time because it literally happened like right as the workday was wrapping up. But those potatoes were good, but I think you ended up waiting like 20 minutes for them.
Yeah, I went inside to check because we did the mobile
I do
order.
think everybody from our town either went over to where we went to eat or they went somewhere else. And then we went to Dairy Queen. Hadn't been to Dairy Queen since before the pandemic for me. Well, no, we got your birthday cake, but like in terms of having like a blizzard.
Oh, sure.
Haven't been there forever. I ordered one of the blizzards that I saw on TikTok by someone that worked at Dairy Queen. I was really concerned. They made it right away. So thank you, TikTok, because that was really good.
Welcome to our food podcast where we talk about the food that we eat.
And then we went home and it was darker and it was even creepier. And speaking of creepy, could it be the reason why the power went out in town yet again? Because of the mysterious creature known as the Mothman, legendary West Virginia creature.
Don't blame the Mothman. See, I have a running theory on the Mothman. All the tragedies that are so-called alluded to the Mothman, the Men in Black are always there too. I think they're the real villains, and Mothman is actually the hero trying to stop them, but he just never gets
in
there
the
in
Mothman
time.
Prophecies. Like I haven't watched that movie in a good piece. It was not even filmed here. Ugh. But
yeah, they filmed it like Pennsylvania.
Yeah, they did not film it in Point Pleasant. But can you imagine if they did? Traffic would have been insane. Anyway, don't they kind of allude to that as well in that? Maybe they don't. I don't know.
No, they went heavy into like the metaphorical, like spiritual kind of like.
Yeah, I don't remember. Maybe I'm thinking of one of the specials that I watched, one of those like paranormal specials.
Yeah.
Where I think they kind of went with your thing, like more so blaming the Men in Black. But the Mothman, if you don't know who the Mothman is, like, are you living under a rock? He is the famous monster, creature, being from West Virginia, first spotted in the town of Point Pleasant. And this weekend, they have a Mothman Festival. Yes, the Mothman Festival. And we were I feel like that Mothman Festival started early 2000s. I used to work as a reporter, so I would go out and cover the festival. In my time, being connected to that festival, it has grown tremendously.
Oh yeah, I am pretty sure the last couple years of the festival, that more people have attended the festival than actually live in town.
Oh, absolutely. I'd say locals are the least attended because Point Pleasant is so small.
Yeah.
It's kind of like one main road, small little river town, that a lot of locals kind of make sure we have groceries stocked up and we sort of barricade ourselves in the house for the weekend because this town, I mean, people come from all over. Florida, I saw there was people from California, Tennessee, Louisiana, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, obviously Ohio. I know we actually had a long run scheduled on Saturday. So normally last year we tried to avoid the Mothman Festival and get that run in, and it took us an hour to get back into town. So this year we were like, you know what? Let's run it in the middle of our long run. So we parked at the gym in town, ran down, checked into the race, ran a little bit more, did the race, and we tried to control our pace a little bit, but it's really hard, and we're both competitive. So we had quite the little tempo run, and then we wrapped up, got our medals, which were really cute. I might post it on the We Watch TV podcast Instagram, which you guys should follow us there. And then we ran back. And we got by the time we finished, that race started at 8 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
So it was probably around a little after 8:30 that we were getting out of there. The festival was already getting swamped.
Oh, it was packed, yeah.
And it went away for 2 years. Obviously, it didn't happen in 2020, and they had to cancel it last minute in 2021. So I think it was really starting to grow in that 2018, 2019 timeframe. But I think the fact that it went away for a little bit, that there's been more like paranormal type specials, like cryptid, am I saying that right?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of enthusiasts, and just with the power of social media, it just really grown so much. I really feel like it's probably, if it's not the largest, it's absolutely at least in the top 5 largest festivals in the state of West Virginia.
Yeah, I agree.
For sure.
It's got to be up
huge.
there in the top 5.
Like just the crowd images of people coming off the bridge to get into Point Pleasant that I saw, like it was just bumper to bumper traffic. Like people were probably stuck on that bridge for a while to get into town.
Just don't expect to
have cell service
at all, because
on a regular normal day where there's not a major festival in the small town of Point Pleasant, your service might be less than ideal just because they don't have the infrastructure and the towers here yet, because they just don't prioritize, unfortunately, country areas. So we got a little taste of the festival with the run. The run was fun. The run is actually very special to us. Why is that?
We kind of proposed and ran that. Not ran it in a sense of ran it, but ran it in a sense of organized it. Put it together for the first couple years that it was in existence.
We basically created the Mothman 5K. I remember I covered the festival for the paper, and I talked to the director. I'm like, you guys should really do a 5K as part of this. I was like, that might draw in a bigger crowd. And he's like, well, do you want to run it? And I'm like, well, sure, I can, be the director. So we had no money.
Yeah.
We asked them for donation for businesses. I remember our check-in area, I literally took bright green poster board with to be Mothman-y, and I would write on that. I did our own art.
I had to come up with a 5K course.
Yeah, we designed the course, which they have since changed the course, and I think
the course that they have now is better than what we have.
Yeah, for sure. I think they've done a great job. And then we directed that 5K for 3 years, and then we both ended up getting jobs that were a bit more demanding of our time and our energy. And we had to step away from that. And thankfully, another local person stepped right in to the plate. And so this was kind of our first time. I would much rather run a 5K than be in charge of it.
Absolutely.
It is stressful.
Yes, it is very
and
stressful.
Now they have the Tri-State Racer group that comes in and handles the timing. They have participant medals for everybody. I think they had over 400 people that were registered for this race, which is huge for Point Pleasant. When I've done local 5Ks around here before, I think when we organized it, we did have over 100 one year, which was a big deal.
150, I think. Over 150 was about what we got to
our biggest number.
Years, yeah.
And at the time, that was big for a local race, because some of the other local races I had done only drew in 50 people. So that's just something to be kind of part of that local history that I'm proud of. So we had a great time with that. And then last year, we didn't really explore the festival at all. I think we were both feeling real bad from a long run last year.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
But today we were able to go down this past weekend, and we hung out Sunday. If you ever make plans to go to the Mothman Festival, it's in September. I believe it is usually the third weekend in September, traditionally every year. Yes, that's typically when they have it. Starts on a Friday, but the main stuff is on Saturday and Sunday. Sunday tends to be the more chill, low-key day. There was even some rain. That was pretty much a lot of the morning. Like, we ended up getting down there later than we thought we would. But did the rain damper the crowd at all?
Didn't seem like it.
It didn't seem like it.
It did not seem like it at all.
It still seemed super crowded. So let's say some of the sights that we saw. Besides, I saw multiple Mothman walking around.
Multiple, yeah.
I
saw the Men in Black a few times. So
I didn't see the Men in Black.
I saw them twice. Or did I?
Or did you? Okay, now I'm creeped out. Walked into the street area, the part that was kind of closed off to traffic. First thing happened, somebody had like a dinosaur costume on or something.
Yeah, I got hit in the face with their tail.
Yeah, we both got smacked in the face with the tail. It was all right. Let's see here. We saw the Ghostbusters. We saw, oh my gosh, tell me the Star Wars fact that you told me.
Well, the 501st was there. They're a cosplay organization that has a... They cosplay as stormtroopers, Star Wars Imperial officers, stuff like that. And famously, when they were filming the Obi-Wan Kenobi TV show for Disney Plus, they needed some like practical clone troopers from the time, and they actually found some 501st guys.
And they were at the festival.
And that's that picture where Hayden Christensen as Anakin is with those guys. Those guys are not actors. Those guys are like just volunteers from the 501st. And so they had a little group there. They had a stormtrooper, and then they had a few Jawas in a cage.
And the Jawas are just as creepy as they were. If anybody remembers when Star Wars Launch Bay used to have the Jawas walking around, one time one literally put their hand like in my pocket. It was so weird.
I love that. I don't know why they don't bring that back to Galaxy's Edge.
Why don't they bring that into Galaxy's Edge?
Would be so cool to just have those guys running around causing mischief.
I mean, they were creepy, but
it would be,
all in good fun.
Yeah, it would be really cool.
Bring them back. So they were there. They had a stormtrooper all in black.
Yeah, that was one of the shock troopers from Rogue One.
I'll try to put some of those pictures on Instagram. So let's see. We had the Ghostbusters car. Does it have an official name? Are people going to roast me?
I don't know.
Who you going to call? So it was a lot of fun walking around.
The people in the tinfoil hats. That was
there
good.
were people.
They were just wearing
hats.
regular clothes like anybody else would,
hats.
but just had tinfoil hats on. I thought that was really good.
Costuming was pretty big. We saw a lot of people in like their own Mothman costumes that they made during the race. We actually saw, because at one point you like pass. Like the runners are kind of finishing up their part, and the walkers, because it's
we go by, yeah, they go by each other.
So they kind of like cross, so you can see the walkers on the other side, and people were dressed as a Scooby Gang. Even somebody like had the Mystery Machine like as a costume that they were wearing. I almost like was getting Run Disney vibes, honestly, with all the costumes. It makes me think I should have done like a little Mothman running outfit. Could have done like a Mothman fairy. Do you want to be Bigfoot?
I can probably pull that off.
So anyway, what have we been watching?
I mean, I think we've been talking about Star Wars. Do you want to jump right into Ahsoka?
I mean, if you would check your show notes, that's not what we were supposed to jump into first.
Football first.
Football. The Backyard Brawl took place. So in between our Mothman fun, we watched the Backyard Brawl, which we mentioned last week. And I have to say,
for everybody not involved, that is West Virginia versus the University of Pittsburgh.
Pitt, as in spit. Everybody should know what that is. A historic rivalry. And I just have to say, hail West Virginia. We won.
Okay. It's like you were pointing at me like I didn't know.
Or
I
could do Sweet Caroline. Sweet Caroline.
We did that last week. We should probably hold off.
I'll just say eat chips. Like the Raspy Voice podcast, it said, shout out to them. Local, they're actually from my hometown that I grew up in. They have a podcast where they do pop culture, and they also talk about sports, mainly WVU. And they that's what they said on their podcast. I know we were, a little more crass last week, but WVU won. We finally had something to be excited about. Yay. Now we can get into Ahsoka and Return of the King
Part 2.
Again. Man, do you want to go?
I'm going to set the episode up, and then I'm just going to let you rant on it. So
I'm going to be like, I love this question. I think
this was episode 5 of the Ahsoka show.
The mid-season finale.
Kind of, yeah. Last week we talked about, we really enjoyed last week's episode. Even before you got to the end with the cameo that came up, I thought last week's episode was a really great episode. This week's episode, we get to see basically So what's happening to Ahsoka. And so she is in the world between worlds. She meets.
Did they confirm that was the world between worlds? Did they actually?
I mean, it is. That's what it looks
that?
like. No, but
because they didn't actually
say it, but that's what it looks like from the show, from the Rebel show.
And they also didn't confirm that Hayden. I think Hayden was a
they
Force
didn't
ghost.
say what he is.
I think a lot of people are interpreting that he probably was a Force ghost.
I think so because I think he acted as if he had memories, right?
Yes.
So like there was one point where they were at the Siege of Mandalore and he was like, I don't remember this battle, okay? Because he wasn't there.
Yeah.
And a Force ghost, I don't know, he had his personality. He was him.
Oh, he was 100% Anakin.
And more importantly, he was the Anakin post Return of the Jedi, I think, because he said at one point, she said, I'm not going to fight you.
I've heard
and
that
he
before.
said, I've heard that before. And that calls back to Luke in Return of the Jedi saying, I'm not going to fight you. I thought it was a really great episode. Really well done. Had a lot of really good places. You were complaining early in the season that this was a show for Rebels fans. And I think all the Clone Wars fans got fed in this episode.
Hey, I didn't complain. I just said it's not fair.
For me, a really, really great episode of television. Last week's was still a better episode of TV.
I agree. Episode 4 was better just in terms of, like being on the edge of my seat, everything going on. But then for me, like emotionally, getting to see Anakin Skywalker once again on my screen, having so much screen time.
Played by Hayden Christensen,
of course.
Excellently, by the way.
I can tell that Hayden watched the Clone Wars.
Yes.
He talked to Ahsoka the same way. He had the mannerisms. He looked at her the same. The banter was there. You can tell he did the homework. He watched, and shout out to Matt Lanter, who voiced Anakin in the Clone Wars. He did a great job. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really a sign. Like some actors would have been like, oh, I don't need to watch that. I was Anakin. Why do I need to see that? And Hayden was, he talked about it. Like he watched the Clone Wars. He did the homework. And I'm going to say, I think that was Hayden's, honestly, his best performance that he's done in Star Wars.
I agree.
In that episode.
In particular, I would say that he played multiple versions of Anakin because he played the Clone Wars version. He played the Revenge of the Sith version. He played Darth Vader. And I think that switching between them was because he's played two of those characters. He's not played the Clone Wars version of Anakin before.
No.
And I think we can get into it as we talk more, but one of the really striking things that a lot of people noticed from that part of the flashbacks was that Ahsoka, because they brought in a separate actress to play Ahsoka.
If you guys have seen Baby Gamora in Avengers Infinity Wars, it was that actress. She's also in the Barbie movie.
Yep.
She plays America Ferrera's daughter.
So they brought in an actress to play younger Ahsoka. Mm-hmm. And it kind of, for me, and a lot of people, it was the first time, like we've seen the Clone Wars in animation and we knew that Ahsoka was 14 during that event, but it kind of hit a little bit differently seeing a fairly age-appropriate actor
little girl
playing that character and realize, and really Anakin is probably 19 during the events of that stuff as well. So it's like those they're children. They've been forced into war, and it really, I think
Anakin's been used his whole life, a slave. Then he goes to do this, and then it
shows you. I think
manipulated.
Well, but some of it, I think, it shows the corruption of the Jedi. What are they even doing here?
Sure.
Why are they involved in this? That they're peacekeepers, they're defenders. They're not like, why are they involved in this war?
You can see there's a lot to debate on that we could do an entire podcast on about what happened with the Jedi and how a lot of it they had it coming. Like I think we hope that, and that's what this is again. I don't want to get into the sequels again, but one of the things that sort of irritated me about the sequels, and I'm not one of those people that was like, oh, they ruined Luke. He was never like that, because if you watch like A New Hope, Luke is whiny. He is a whiny character. He does have issues. He struggles. We all just remember how great Luke was.
I mean, it took Luke
at End of Empire, Return of the Jedi.
I mean, not even End of Empire. Like it took what woke Luke up really was Darth Vader smacking the absolute crap out of him at the end of Empire, and him realizing, oh man, everything Yoda and Obi-Wan have been telling me was absolutely right. I was not ready for this.
Yeah. But yeah, I think people kind of build Luke up in their head as this like untouchable, perfect character, which he never was. But not to crap on the sequels again. But one of the things that made me mad about them from that perspective, where I was irritated, was that it seemed like the Jedi still didn't have their crap together. Like Luke tried to start like the school again, and obviously we know what happens with that little turd Kylo, and Luke kind of, again made probably a poor decision and instantly regretted it, but at that point it was too far gone. And I always like to think at the end of like, if Return of the Jedi had been where it ended, I think in my head like, everyone was happy, like Luke was able to get that back in order, and obviously that didn't happen. But probably, it probably does have some degree of realism where I'll defend the sequels, and that it's likely when you have that power goes out that there's other people that are in line to want to take over, because that's the way the world is. The world kind of sucks.
Yeah, and that's also the danger you get whenever you start taking a franchise of any type that has had a pretty like solid cemented ending, and then to say, okay, now we're going to tell stories after that ending,
because you have to have conflict.
You're going to have conflict, and so things are going to happen that some fans may or may not be. So with.
These next, if we have not had a post sequels content yet. They are, I think,
That's
working
correct.
on something. I would like to see at some point, like, they certainly make her perfect. She has no flaws. So is Rey going to just finally be the one to get the Jedi in place here?
That seems to be the pitch for the movie that they're working on with Daisy Ridley.
Okay.
It's not going to be a numbered like episode, like 1 through 9 have been. So it's
and literally with Rey, I just want to say I like Rey. I think Daisy Ridley does a good job, but I don't connect with her like I do Leia, like I do Padme, like I do Ahsoka, because she has no flaws. I like my characters flawed. Everybody in the original Star Wars and a lot of the prequels, like Luke was flawed, Han was flawed, Leia was flawed, Padme was flawed. I've heard people be like, "How was Padme flawed?" Hello, she knew that Anakin killed the Sand People, and you know what, girl? I would have forgiven him too, because that's my man. And anyway, back to Hayden Christensen's performance, so we don't just go off on a huge rant. Great job. I think a lot of people forget that in Revenge of the Sith, like, people think Darth Vader, they think the suit, the outfit, the breathing. The moment he gets on his knees, and even he's like, "What have I done?" He's Darth Vader.
Yeah.
And we got to see that. Like, what maybe like a taste of what it could have been, if he hadn't been in the suit.
Well, yeah, because we got the first time seeing Anakin Skywalker as Darth Vader without a suit with a red lightsaber.
So we kind of had our reason why the music started, because basically Anakin was there to teach
teach her a lesson. Yeah.
He's there to, help Ahsoka get her groove back in a way. So it wasn't necessarily a what if episode, but we did go back in time, and I think he was there. He wanted her to make the choice that she wants to live. Because Ahsoka carries so much guilt. I think she, like Obi-Wan, blames herself for Anakin. All the war crimes, which Anakin, why you got to bring that up? Someone's like, I loved how Anakin was still just like so like sassy. Like the first thing he said to her was, "You got old."
Yeah.
And then she's like talking about all like the war crimes they committed and all the people that like died, and he's just like, and.
I think
and it just fit Anakin. Did you expect Anakin to be nice, warm, and cuddly?
No,
he's only warm and cuddly with Padme.
Yeah.
That's the only one. He's snarky with Ahsoka, snarky with Obi-Wan.
I think one thing too, I read some of this online, but I've thought about it as well myself. Because do you recall like early episodes? Ahsoka was very stoic, very emotionless.
Yes. And fans were calling her out on that.
People were calling her out for that. And what one
subdued.
person online I read said was, part of the lesson that Anakin was teaching her was she was afraid of becoming him.
Yeah.
And he was trying to tell her, "You're not me. You're not going to become me.
You can choose to not be what happened to me."
Yeah, and what happened there at the very end of their interaction when she took his lightsaber and like leaned in and then turned it off and threw it away
and said like, "I want to live."
Same thing that Luke did. Mm-hmm. In Return of the Jedi, when the
parallels
the Emperor
were great.
was like, "All right, come get me," and he threw his lightsaber away and said, "I'm not going to fight you." And in that moment, Ahsoka realized that was the lesson, that she can be herself, and not be tempted, by the dark side and not turn into Anakin. And that was
scene
the lesson.
right there,
and it was great.
Where Anakin's eyes go from the red Sith eyes back to the blue Anakin eyes.
Yeah,
and it seems I also took it as like Anakin has found some balance. Yeah. And that, like, he was able to, because he's basically, you can have that little moment where he's just like, "Yep, we're going to have to do this the hard way." You brought that up. Mm-hmm. And we had that cinematic. Dave Filoni, I just want to get on my hands and knees and, like, praise the man. Like, just. perfection. That flash of Anakin, and then it flashes to Vader and back to Anakin in that scene.
I don't know what else.
Emmy.
I don't know what else Disney needs as evidence to why he should be in charge of all of Star Wars.
Everything.
And get all those other people out of there and let Dave be the new George Lucas and let him run the show.
And also, in the Clone Wars flashback, I finally got my meal, my dessert, the appetizer, everything. Obi-Wan, we all wanted so badly to have a flashback of Anakin in the Clone Wars armor like we see in the cartoon. And we got it. He served that up. Oh, it was so great. And then he had the still long, but not like the Padawan braid, but like the first couple seasons Anakin hair from the Clone Wars.
He had the armor. He had all the look. It looked really good.
The way they looked like on the screen, like from the cartoon. We got a brief glimpse of Rex.
Yep.
I think we're gonna see him again.
I think the older version might show up again, and we'll see Tamara Morrison show up in person.
But instantly, the moment at the end of episode 4 and then this, like, I saw the Ahsoka that I remember from the Clone Wars and from where I saw her on Rebels.
Yeah, because
she was a little stoic on Rebels, but she still had that like a little bit of fire to her. But because Rebels is where she learned that
she didn't
Vader
know,
was Anakin. She didn't know that, and that and then
so because even after
she has been stoic
after her interaction with Anakin, the whatever he was.
Yes.
She goes back and Hera finds her, and her attitude is different. Everything she's
Ahsoka the white now instead of Ahsoka the gray.
How are we gonna find them? They're gone. Like, how are we gonna chase them down? And she's like, you know what? I got this crazy idea that might just work. I'm not sure it's gonna work, but we're gonna do it anyways. And that's totally like Anakin. She's learning the lessons, the good lessons she learned from Anakin. She's taking.
Yeah, absolutely. That you can find balance, you can choose, you don't have to fall down that path, and that was what Anakin was there to teach her. Whether that place is the world between worlds or what it was, Force Ghost Anakin, you can debate that. I think he was there. That was our Anakin, and he was there to, and that's why we had that little. Because I was like, "What does it mean? What does it mean? What does it mean?" That little clip of the Vader music at the end. So very relieved that I got it. And then when he had that, like when she did choose to live, and he was basically like, "Oh, now you got the lesson." Like the eyes, just like I said, the eyes going back, the smile on his face. It fit. It worked. And it's honestly, would you expect Anakin to teach a lesson any other way?
He's just brute force?
Yeah.
No, absolutely not.
It was Anakin. That's who he is. A lot of people, I made the comment about Ahsoka the White, Ahsoka the Gray. If you are a Lord of the Rings fan, which I assume we have a lot of nerds listening to this, you probably are. So I feel like this is Filoni's Gandalf the Gray. Now Gandalf is back and he's in the white robes, and we're going to see a new side. Still that mature Ahsoka, but she has a new outlook.
Yeah.
The one thing that I really try to like love everything, but I will say in my head during the scene where she's like, we're going to work with these like whale-like things that Ezra like used to communicate with to try to get to where we need to go. It went on a bit, and I'm like, this is reminding me of Finding Dory with the whales. And then somebody on TikTok, there's always people out like you in the vast world that is our universe that have apparently your same brain. And I saw like one or two, I think, TikToks about that. We did not see Baylan, but I figured we weren't going to for episode 5. I was like, this is going to be the Ahsoka Anakin episode.
Yeah.
We did get a little bit of Hera and her son, who is force sensitive, because he was able to be like, I hear the lightsaber fighting in the water. So that's why they were there. We did get our fun little line. His name's Jason, right?
Yes.
So the guy that's been showed up on Mandalorian before, he was also in this episode. And
oh yeah, the X-Wing fighter. Yeah.
I don't know who was. It wasn't Hera that said it. It was somebody else. Were like, "Oh, that's Jason. He's force sensitive," and he was just like, "Okay." And it's
I guess we're gonna do that. I guess we're gonna do what
like
he says.
that, because we all think about like the Jedi, but they're not everything about this universe. Which I know I need to go watch more of Andor.
Well, particularly in this time period, like Luke is like the only major famous Jedi anybody really knows about.
But
he
was just like, "Okay, cool."
So.
But it was good. Do we think, and you know what? I want more, even though I know I shouldn't, because I feel like they finally really gave me what I've been desiring with Anakin the whole time. And I love Anakin Skywalker. He's my favorite character from Star Wars, staunch Anakin supporter. But if I don't see Hayden in Anakin's role again, while it's going to hurt so bad, I think I can ride off in the sunset on a happy note.
I think if you recall the last scene of Return of the Jedi where Luke walks off from the party and sees Yoda and Obi-Wan and Anakin standing there.
Oh, my favorite scene.
I feel like Dave almost might do that with us here at the end of this series, is to kind of give you a little, like Anakin looking over Ahsoka and smiling and be like, you're doing good, kid.
You know what I would really love, but they're not going to do it? I would love Anakin to go like hang it, because we know Luke is still alive, obviously, to visit Luke one more time, because we know from the books that are canon that Luke still does communicate with Anakin.
Yeah.
I would like that. I don't think I'm going to get that, but I think if we get to see Hayden as Anakin one more time, we're going to get that. What you said.
I just would like the rules of the Force Ghosts to be explained a little bit better.
I mean, they can set fires in the sequels.
Right. Yeah. I would. That's what I'm saying. I would like and now we know that, like.
But the sequels, Rey could also, and Grogu's now, they can also heal. That, you know, that power might have come in handy for Anakin. You know, with Padme. Anakin.
That would have come in handy with Obi-Wan. This whole thing could have been solved if Obi-Wan could have just healed Qui-Gon after he got stabbed by Darth Maul in Episode 1.
And then, So anyway.
All right.
I'm looking forward to the next episode, even though I know Hayden's probably not going to be in it, and Anakin's my big draw, because I'm really excited to see. And now I don't super have any stakes in Ezra, but I'm like, if we don't find Ezra at the end of the season, I mean,
I'm invested in the story of the show, regardless of Anakin.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, he was a nice
but we
treat.
do love that man.
Like, he was a treat to be there, and it was excellent to see him. But like again, like I said, Episode 4, if Anakin hadn't shown up at the end of that episode, I still thought that was a mind-blowingly good episode of Star Wars and television in general.
It really was. I mean, what date did that come out? That came out on Tuesday, September 12th, 2023. It was a great date for me on many levels, because I got Anakin back in the same night. This isn't in your show notes, by the way. I'm going off script. I got Anakin back in the same night that I got NSYNC. All members of NSYNC on stage together at the VMAs. I watched the VMAs for the first time. That's something that we did watch, and you watched them with me. Hadn't watched it since 2013, which was the last time that NSYNC was together at the VMAs. They did not perform. They presented an award to the amazing, the great Taylor Swift, but they were all together on stage. It was wonderful. I think I almost blacked out. Like, I acted like a maniac, right?
Yes,
cried, screamed. And then later this week, we got a snippet, just as and people that are acting surprised about this. Clearly, not everyone's like the Charlie Day meme, like with me and the NSYNC community on TikTok, who like have been sussing this news out since like late July. But we because everybody's like, oh, they're going to be in the Trolls movie. I was like, we knew that though. We already suspected. So we have their first new song in over 20 years. We've got 30 seconds of it. You know the Michael Scott in The Office where he plays the clip, like I think on like iTunes.
Yes, I recall.
Basically, I've been doing that with this 30. Do it again. You're getting Daniel Saint and Dwight 2 weeks in a row.
I can't even remember the rest of the song, so.
Goodbye. But I have been playing like Michael Scotting that song up, because we're going to get the full version at the end of the month. And I know I'm going to keep clowning. We're going to get that reunion tour, my girlies. It's going to happen.
Put your red nose on.
And I'll keep doing it. I'm very excited. But who would have thought that I'd get Anakin Skywalker and NSYNC back in the same week? My little heart is soaring. You got to see your TV wife at the VMAs, though, and you also got to see her in another show that airs on Tuesday called Only Murders in the Building, Season 3.
Do you recall what episode this was of this show?
I do not.
I'm really having trouble keeping track of this show this season.
Last week I was a little more organized with the episode numbers. I believe if you would like to pause, I can look it up, or you can throw in your Star Trek fact now while I find out.
I haven't continued to watch the Lower Decks yet. I'm kind of I like to let the episodes stack up a little bit, because they're only like 20, 23-minute episodes. So I'm a little behind there, but I'm actually getting ready to start. I've been working my way back through the movies, and so I'm currently getting ready to start with Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home, the one with the whales. Just to tie that in with the whale stuff from Star Wars.
Not the same whales of the Star Wars universe,
No, these are real humpbacked whales.
Isn't that the mom from Seventh Heaven is in that movie,
She is
too?
in that as well, yes.
Anyway, I have our episode number now. Episode number 7, Code Bro, and I believe there are 10 episodes this season. So last week we had the breaking up of the gang, so to speak. But Oliver and... I'm always forgetting their names. Why do I always forget Steve Martin's character? Why do I forget the names of the characters? Oliver, Mabel. What is Steve Martin's character? Why
What is his name?
Charles Hayden Savage. I was like, we are great podcasters. Well, you know what? This is just a reflection that this season has been mid.
Yeah, it really has been.
We love the cast. We love it. Obviously, you like Selena Gomez.
Hey, Mia, I'm not blind.
I thought she looked like she was wearing a mechanic outfit on the episode, and you're like, get her name out of your mouth. But Charles Hayden Savage and Oliver Putnam, they kind of apologize to each other, and they're like, how should we apologize to Mabel? Should we call her? No, she'll hate that. This is another they're always making jokes about, like, what millennials, because we as millennials, do you like talking to people on the phone?
Don't call me.
Don't call me. One, I assume it's an emergency.
Do not call me. Do not call me if it's an emergency.
Yeah.
Text me.
It's like, call me. What is the parents? My dad will do this. He'll be like, Hope, call me. And then it'll be like, ask me an inane question. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Do you know how to hook this fire stick up? You think that like somebody's in the hospital or some terrible thing's happening.
Like the worst
and
thing
they're
ever.
like, hey, the Netflix button isn't
how
working
do I
on
log
my
into
remote.
ESPN Plus?
Yeah.
Text me, call me. And they always constantly make that joke with Mabel. And then it seems like they're going to go, like, she's already been, like, we didn't see it happen, but we knew she was having to move out because her aunt's making her move out of the apartment because it was never her apartment in the Arconia.
And she sold it.
And they go up to try to apologize to find her, and she's not there.
No.
So, and she was kind of struggling, like, 'cause she's working with, her flavor of the month, the boy, Jackson Avery from Grey's Anatomy. I don't remember what his name is in the show.
It's Jackson Avery from Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah,
it's his
that's what we're just
name.
Gonna call him.
Full and proper name.
Full and proper name in this place. We keep it very classy. And he's trying to get her to do like the Bloody Mabel podcast, and she ends up, and you can tell she's a little upset about it because she misses her guys. And she does go ahead and record it later, but she still, I believe she said, this is Bloody Mabel with only murders in the building.
Yeah.
So I think with the episodes that we have left, they're going to eventually all make up. I hope so, because the chemistry when the three of them are on screen is so much better. It was already better just having Charles and Oliver get along more. Because we had Matthew Broderick guest starred as himself.
Yeah, as himself. That was great.
That he was going to take over Charles' role in Oliver's play, and apparently, like, he was like, I have all these ideas. And then he calls Mel Brooks.
Yeah, he FaceTimes Mel Brooks. And
Mel
Mel Brooks
actually in the episode, right? Like on the screen.
Yeah, and Mel Brooks is like talking to Oliver,
like
and he's like, "Did you tell him you were open to his ideas? That's a terrible idea. Never tell an actor that."
How old is Mel Brooks?
He's got to be in his 90s.
So old. So even he was on there. Meryl was not in this episode.
That's 2 episodes in a row she's been out on.
So who do we think? We had more focus on his brother, apparently Paul Rudd's brother, because his character is the one that dies. That's the mystery. Was kind of jealous because Paul Rudd's character had the movie series, like, was it Code Bro? Like Co-Bro.
He's a bro. A cobra.
But then they have like that's why they have the big snake. He turns into a snake. Because they were having like an estate sale. That guy's still kind of on my list as a possible.
He's on the list, yes, for sure. He hasn't been and he has not been eliminated for the list either.
What about Meryl? Do we think we get eliminated?
She's got to be on the list right now. I don't think they're going to go that way, but
I don't think so either.
She's on the list.
She really needs to be on the list.
Because she's got the weird book at her house that Charles found. Where Oliver found it.
Oliver found the book at her house that had all the stuff of Paul Rudd's character in it. It's like clippings throughout the years. She's clearly a crazy super fan. Yeah. So we are getting somewhere in the mystery, and it finally felt like hearing Mabel actually, like, we finally got like the actual podcasting,
yes,
which I like.
Which is the shtick of the show. So.
It's just this season, like, I need the three of them to be on screen together very soon.
Yeah, they've taken a long time, and if let's say they get them back together this next episode this week, I just don't know that it's the 3 episodes we've got left is going to be enough to save it.
It's been very poorly paced.
Yeah,
and I still laugh and I still enjoy it. Like, I'm not bored at all while I'm watching it.
No, but as soon as it's over, it's like, okay.
And then
I
come in here to do a podcast, and I'm like a deer in the headlights.
Yeah, struggling to remember. Yeah, what happened.
Like what happened?
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right. So, in addition to that, you also watched the first 2 episodes of The Morning Show.
Yes.
Is this season 3?
Yes, season 3. A new show to talk about for the week. You've watched some episodes here and there.
Season 1. I did.
Never really got super
watch
into
much of season
it.
2.
It is the show on Apple TV Plus. It stars Billy Crudup, Reese Witherspoon, Jennifer Aniston. They're the main cast of characters, and it's basically like, I feel like it's kind of like a take on like the Today Show. Season 1 was phenomenal. I absolutely love season 1. Season 2 got a little too real for me, just because it basically had you relive those early days of the pandemic before we had like quarantine or really like knew what it was or anything like that. And it was almost like traumatic for me to watch that. I'm not ready to relive like all the unknowns and how scary that was, because I am somebody with asthma that's on those high risk groups. So we had no treatment plans, like no vaccines at the time, regardless of what you think of any of that. It was very unknown, very scary for many people, so many things. And I had to take a break in between watching season 2 before I finished it, because it gave me so much anxiety. And I felt like it kind of was almost taking itself too seriously. And I'm like, in season 1, they touched on a lot of heavy topics as well. Like basically Steve Carell's character was a piece of crap, the way he treated women on the show. He was kind of like a Matt Lauer situation. Yeah. But they still kind of had that salacious drama and a little bit of comedy to it. And I think they're kind of getting back to that in season 3. And Reese Witherspoon and Jennifer Aniston, like obviously if you've ever seen the episode of Friends where Reese plays Rachel's little sister,
Classic.
They have obviously classic. They have really good chemistry together, and I think they've gotten more scenes. Their characters, Alex is who Jennifer Aniston plays, and then Bradley, that is who Reese Witherspoon plays. And they kind of were always like butted heads a little bit in those first 2 seasons. And now they're really at a place where I would consider not just work friend, like maybe not like besties, but there's a respect there now. Okay. And they're friends. And I liked seeing like the scenes with them. Alex, at the end of season 2, she did get COVID, and they had her like live stream it, like what was going on. And so she is essentially being credited as saving their, I don't remember now what the name of their like network is, but they have the plus. So like basically they're roasting like streaming networks essentially, which is funny because it's on a streaming network, and that her doing, so she has her own show, and that she kind of like helped the network by a thread, but there's still obviously money issues. So they brought in John Hamm this season to play a bit of a Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk type character.
I don't know anything about the show, and I haven't seen his performance, but that just sounds like perfection.
I already 100% hate his character.
Perfect.
He's doing a great job. He's a total jerk, and it's really flowing well so far.
John Hamm was made for roles like that.
Oh, he was. He plays the perfect arrogant jerk so well, and I'm just really excited to see where it takes off. Like this new phase where these characters are, especially Bradley and Alex, like having that mutual respect for one another. Like there's this one part where they have Bradley now in the nightly news. So she's no longer even doing the morning set. Like she has landed like the job. Yeah. And she finds out, very quickly that they're still going to hold her back, even, not to like one of the girls that was working with Billy Crudup's character. I can't remember his name on the show now. So bad at this. Corey Ellison. That is his name. He did play Steve Prefontaine.
Or Dr. Manhattan.
I always think of him as Steve Prefontaine. Runner joke.
He was Dr. Manhattan in The Watchmen.
Okay, that was a bad movie.
Oh, it wasn't that bad.
It was good until it wasn't good at the end, and then it got kooky. But can I continue?
I like kooky. Go ahead.
You told me you thought it was the end of that movie was bad.
They made a few choices that changed from the comic book that I did not agree with.
There's no way that you would give it a ranking better than fine.
Oh, no, it was fine, but
okay, thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
It was fine.
It was fine by Daniel standards. But back to Billy Crudup's character of Corey. He's always been kind of shady. He's clearly in love with Bradley, Reese's character. So he's got the money stuff, the money issues. He's trying to like play all sides of it. But one of the people that worked with him, Stella, would always talk to Bradley like, you and I can change things. We can be different. And Stella's the one that tells Bradley she can't do this piece on some abortion issues in Texas. So Alex ends up doing it. Like when Alex is like, why aren't you just like going out there anyway in your car? And then I think, did Bezos and a bunch of rich people go to space?
Yeah.
At some point, they kind of did a little thing on that. What was really weird for me is that like some stuff they almost alluded to like writers striking, kind of, sort of, and I'm like, none of that, which shows me that that's probably been in talks for a while. But I'm like, how did they know that? Because this didn't happen yet at the timeline of the show. But I think it's really good. It's gotten its groove back. Those first 2 episodes went by so fast for me, and I'm really excited to see where the morning show goes. And you should watch it too. You, as in you, Daniel, and you to all of our listeners.
I definitely agree. All you listeners should go watch it as well.
It's good. It's good.
Hey, did any interesting trailers drop recently?
Oh, I love this question. I think We got a trailer for Frasier, the new Frasier that will be premiering on Paramount Plus.
Speaking of 12th. Shows that had perfect media that had good endings,
I'm
and
gonna call
then
it that
pick it
ending
up
a
years
perfect
later.
ending.
No, it wasn't perfect.
It was pretty good.
It just the trailer gave me just a little bit more confidence, but not a lot.
One of the things, I have some complaints. I'm
okay.
still going to watch it because Frasier is my favorite. The set bothers me because I feel like Frasier's set was such, maybe it's because Frasier is my comfort show and it's such a comfort piece. This just looks like every modern like TV show sitcom set I've seen. And I know like styles and stuff change, but even like Frasier's apartment looked weird to me where we saw the clip. So maybe it's probably because I'm not used to it, guys, and I'm set in my ways. And as Daniel said, I do not like change.
I think I have an explanation for you on that, actually.
Okay.
So in the last part of the trailer, this is called trailer interpretation 101. In the last part of the trailer, they're in Frasier's new apartment, and they make the thing about, hey, let's have some scotch, and he goes
top shelf.
He goes to his son's apartment to get the scotch. Okay, so they're in the same building. So Frasier's apartment is in the same building as
but he's not moving in with Freddie
as Freddie's, which is to say that he's probably in a lower style of building that he would normally occupy, but he's done so in order to
I didn't pick up on
be
that.
near to his son but not be on top of his
I thought
son.
he was just over at Freddie's place.
Yeah, but then how would he go back so quickly to get the scotch and do the thing?
That scene did feel like Frasier, though, when he said, he's like, Freddie's like, oh, it's top shelf. And then Frasier's like, yes, of course. He's like, no, it's in a green jug.
Plastic jug on the top shelf.
And then when Freddie is visiting Frasier at his apartment, and he's like, oh, do not sit on the pillows. And he's like, well, not in jeans, or so he makes some comment.
So
felt very Frasier-y.
My interpretation there is they're in the same building. If that's not the case, then I'm going to have criticisms of this show about travel.
Yes.
Which I love to criticize shows about the way people travel.
But it did that, again, like I said, the scene with the pillows, the jeans, felt like Frasier.
Yep.
I need to know how Freddie became like just when I say just a firefighter, I don't mean that. This is the kid that was like the national spelling bee champion in the country. This is a kid that's raised
a goth now.
He's a goth. Thank you, Lilith, for this development.
It needs to be.
He was raised by Dr. Lilith Sternin and Dr. Frasier Crane.
There needs to be more fleshing out to that than just he's rebelling against his parents.
Yeah.
There needs to be more to it than that.
Niall, we thought we found a bag of stuff in his sock. It was just potpourri to keep his socks.
And one thing I pointed out to you that I will criticize.
I was making the Niall's rebelling joke.
I know.
Okay.
One thing I think I will criticize the show for is, so if Freddie is rebelling against the upper class upbringing.
You're about to talk about what I was going to go into.
That's fine, but he can't not know anything about that stuff because he grew up in it with Lilith and going to see Frasier. He's going to know about those finer things that they enjoy. He can't just if he just is
if
like
he acts like Martin.
If he acts like he knows nothing about opera. Yeah. That's not going to make sense. Now, if he hates opera,
that's different.
That's fine. But if he acts like he knows nothing about it, that's not going to fly because that's not how that character.
They can't have the Martin Frasier dynamic that they have. You can't recreate that. And you could be like, well, Martin knew because he was married to Hester. No, he knew that Hester had those interests, but Martin wasn't raised in those interests. He married a woman that enjoyed those things.
Right.
So he knew a little bit, but not a lot. Frederick was raised in that world. So I don't want, and I know a lot of people will say, Cheers. Frasier was a different person on Cheers, and they wrote, actually Frasier talks about how his dad was a scientist on Cheers, and then they obviously changed that when they had Frasier, and you could write it off that Frasier just was just making that stuff up. But so like because they did evolve the character, and when they had Frasier, everybody knows that if you watch these shows or you're very invested like me and go to the Reddit like once a day to talk Frasier, where all the cool people are, obviously. What do they call themselves? Their brothers, where Niles and Frasier like team up to try to solve crime.
Oh gosh, I don't remember.
Oh, my brain is broken, y'all. I blame the Mothman. I'm going to need, like you said, I'm going to need Freddie to still know these things, but just basically be like, I reject that. I don't want to be like you guys. I want to be different. So you're going to have to come up with like kind of another shtick with that. Part. And how do you feel about the casting? I wish they would have cast like the guy that actually played.
It would have been nice. I don't know the story behind it, so I don't know. Was it that actor didn't want to do it? Was there a timing conflict? I don't know. It would have been nice to see that actor because he does still act in a lot of stuff. so there's no reason he couldn't have done it from the acting perspective. But whatever.
Now,
I'm sure after an episode or two, I'll get over it. It'll be fine.
People have. I would never get. I'm just kidding.
I
People
know you
have
won't.
seen some of the episodes at the live tapings. It's gonna be weird for me to watch a show with like people laughing in the background. I don't even notice it on Friends and Frasier when I watch, but you know what, I do notice it when, and that's why I'm hoping that this isn't gonna be bothersome. I notice it like Big Bang Theory, over the top laugh track.
Right.
Like they would laugh on everything, and it was always very distracting for me. I watched a show called Young and Hungry on Freeform. The laugh track like wanted me to like pull my hair out.
Well,
it was so
I think
annoying.
sometimes it's the
I couldn't even focus on the show.
Is it so that I think is a difference between, is it a laugh track or is it people in a stand actually laughing? Because on Friends and Frasier, it's people in a studio actually
laughing. And like
laughing.
I said, on that group, there are people that, and it's on spoilers, and I haven't looked into it, that attended those live tapings. So I'm like, am I going to be distracted? Are the jokes going to land? So I have actively been avoiding spoilers. I have read some articles. I do know that that kind of just allude a little bit, but are not spoilers. We know that, Martin is going to be mentioned, and I think that's probably going to be pretty emotional because obviously the actor, John Mahoney, who played Martin Crane in real life, has since passed just a couple years ago, right?
Yeah, it hasn't been very long.
So we know that David Hyde Pierce is not going to return as Niles, but we do know that Niles and Daphne's son is going to be on the show.
Which I don't think we've seen him in the trailer yet.
I don't think so either. We have not
and
seen
he's
him.
young. He'll be 10 years younger than Freddie, roundabout 10 to 15 maybe.
I'd say a little bit. They might retcon the ages a little bit like they did within Just Like That, but I feel like Freddie was at maybe 12, maybe 13
by the end of the series.
And
they were just born. Okay.
Yeah, because Niles and Daphne had their boy at the finale.
Okay. So that'll be that's premiering October 12th.
October 12th.
So you can tune in for all of Hope's deep analysis on
and it did
the
feel
Frasier
like
Crane
Frasier.
Return. He did.
It felt like Frasier, so that pleased me. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited, but also scared.
Well, here we are, folks. It's that time of the podcast. We are back with our rewatch of the classic early 2000s
teen drama,
The OC.
Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Here's a rewatch again.
We are closing in on the finale of season 1. We will be talking about episodes 23, 24, 25, and 26 here. We've actually already watched the finale as well. We're going to record that pretty soon after this. Mm-hmm. It'll be next week's episode.
We wanted to vote, just like where we talked about the pilot. We thought it was only appropriate because there's a lot to unpack from that finale.
It was a heavy finale.
And we think that deserves its own time before we even jump into season 2, because we will continue the rewatch into the next season. So you can tune in for our finale thoughts next week. But the episodes, like you said, we are going to talk about 23 through 26. One of the episodes called The Nana. That's where we meet Sandy's mom, Nana Cohen.
Someone even Caleb is afraid of.
Yeah, even Caleb. I was so disappointed that Caleb wasn't in that particular episode. I wanted to see Caleb and the Nana spar, but Caleb wasn't even in that episode.
I think
if he wasn't, he had no interaction with her. But I don't even think he was in the episode.
And I think that knowing the reason she was there probably was appropriate not to have him in there. But I don't know. I don't remember if in next season if they get to have that. But that is a missed opportunity if they did not put those characters together at some point.
So we had some of their drama there with the Coens. Obviously, since we last left off on the OC, Marissa found out about Luke and her mom. So Marissa runs off to a place that, no one would think to look. But obviously, when you say that you do that, you still want at least one person to find you.
Yeah,
and that
she
would be Ryan.
She went to a place she knew one person could find
at
her.
Teresa's.
Yeah.
So we have the return of Teresa.
The Teresa arc to close out the season.
There's a lot more Teresa to come. I will say Teresa's engagement party actually seemed fun.
Oh yeah, it looked way more fun than the engagement party we see later. For the gruesome twosome.
The gruesome twosome, Caleb and
Julie. So
Ryan and Marissa do pretty much get back together in this at some point. I don't remember if it was in this episode or the next episode. The proposal. We have the proposal. Something's up with Caleb and Julie. He can't just like her. You think there's something else he's trying to cover up? Maybe we learn some of his financial issues towards the end of the season. Do you think he's trying to have that I'm a family man image? That's why he was so insistent that Marissa live with him, because the fact that he would blackmail a teenager?
Because, we also learned why he ultimately ended up wanting to buy the restaurant from Sandy and Jimmy.
Yeah, and that's why
it had nothing to do with any of that stuff. It was just he was having financial troubles and the DA.
And I think we might learn that in the finale a little bit, so we're kind of jumping ahead. But that's why I don't remember the restaurant plot line in other seasons.
Because they get rid of it so soon, yeah.
So we do this set of episodes. We also said goodbye to Luke. Luke, clearly, everybody's a little mad at Luke, of course. Julie's kind of blowing them off at that point. But he's still...
I get it. I wish
going through some stuff,
and he made it through the whole season. I still think it would have been interesting to have him back. We know he's not in season 2.
We'll see him, I think, in the first episode of season 2.
But after that, we won't. And I still think it would have been more interesting to have him be a character in season 2 and kind of see the struggles he's going through now that he's really kind of lost his entire friend group because. For
which
good
they
reason.
make things right at the end, but I think everything he's been through, like he loses his friends, he's basically like taken in, like I don't care if he's the one that made the first flirtations, like he was taken advantage of by Julie.
Yeah,
he was a child. He is the victim in that situation.
I understand him wanting to get that fresh start.
Yeah.
You know who should have gone with her dad and got a fresh start? Marissa should have gone, and Jimmy should just go to Phoenix.
They should have just gone to Arizona.
Just go to Phoenix and get a fresh start.
Exactly. Because Phoenix is fine. It's perfectly cool.
It's growing every year. Phoenix seems like a great place if you like dry heat.
So basically, in Luke's send-off, he gets in the car accident because he gets drunk. He's just so depressed because he's like, he's convinced himself in his head he loves Julie. Yeah. He knows that, Marissa's never going to speak to him again. He's lost Ryan. Even Seth is mad at him.
Right.
And he gets in an accident. Sometimes, life, when someone's on the edge of death,
especially
it can
that
bring
age.
you, especially at that age.
That's an age where, like, these things seem like just insurmountable.
And so Marissa, she does go to the hospital. They do makeup, and then Luke pretty much tells Ryan, I'm gonna go live with my dad in like Portland. And we got the welcome to the OC.
Yeah.
Like VITCH again. Welcome to the OC, witch. Only said something else. And I love me a good callback. I don't like it when finales just rely on full circle moments. I've always talked about that. But when you can like insert just in your show, like a full circle moment for a character, and that just shows you how that Ryan and Luke were able to really end on good terms. Yeah. So I enjoyed that. And part.
I mean, Luke had I say it would have been nice to have him in season 2, but he had a satisfying character arc through this season. He grew
as a person.
He made mistakes. But ultimately he grew, I think, and
I think he chose what was the healthy thing for him to do. Just get out of there, go be with your dad.
From a purely looking at it just from him, if he was a real person, I'm hoping that he went to Portland, got all that luggage off his shoulders, and was able to go be the best version of himself out there.
You said luggage. Most people say baggage.
Baggage, whatever. It's the same thing.
I know. The shower episode, I enjoyed that one. The combined wedding shower where we got to have Aunt Cindy, Julie's sister, show up. See, Julie is one of those things. I think you can agree with me. She's a good villain because she's not just an over a top. Even Caleb in a way, like, ha ha ha, I'm such an evil villainous person. Like, sometimes she's just not even self-aware at all. Like, I love how Julie thinks that Kirsten's basically her best friend. And Kirsten's just nice and will put up with it. But I like when we see like different like sides of Julie.
They go to the Vegas.
The Vegas. We love the Vegas, as Sandy Cohen says, which apparently is something that I used to say all the time. And now I figured out I got it from the OC. I'm like, oh, I love the Vegas. And I never knew where. Another phrase, just like TJ from the OC. But Julie's like, I want strippers. I want strippers. Vegas? Just anytime someone mentions Vegas, I'm like, I love the Vegas.
Okay.
NSYNC should do a residency there. If they can't do a tour. Well,
I've never been to the
Vegas. Maybe you can go to the Vegas. That was a funny episode. We did have a little bit of Seth and Summer drama in that one that kind of got resolved. Summer's dad, we finally saw him for the first time on screen. Didn't seem to much care for Seth.
No.
Which it made Summer have an absolute complex about it and kind of was standoffishy because she just seems like very much a daddy's girl. She only wants to make her dad happy and do what she does. And I'm sitting there like, oh, that's so annoying. And you're just looking at me like, you do that too.
Yes, you do.
And I was like, am I a daddy's girl? And you're like, yes.
Yes, you are.
100%. Especially at that age when you're like, what, they're supposed to be like 16.
Right.
Like you care even more like what they think, but that's kind of resolved, especially with some comedy. So the strip had a lot of comedy in it in the Vegas because we got Julie with the shower. We had Haley and Julie once again fighting. But it also, that's where Jimmy found out that Caleb was blackmailing Marissa to come live with them.
Yep, and he punches him out at dinner.
and he deserves it.
Yeah, absolutely.
What kind of dirtbag person blackmails a teenager? Oh, I know, Caleb Nickel and Dan Scott. Apparently, Dan Scott did the same thing with Lucas on One Tree Hill. You know where Lucas moves in with Dan and Deb? And the reason why Lucas moves in is so Dan will pay for his heart medicine.
Yeah, I recall.
So Karen doesn't find out. And I'm like, oh, that's very similar. So yeah, I think that Teresa arc obviously has continued. We know at this point that Teresa is with child. Is it Ryan's? Is it Eddie's? Whose is it? Maybe Ryan shouldn't have been stupid and hooked up with her. I think Marissa has every right to be mad about that. He's like, well, we were broken up for like 2 days. What is that?
We were on a break.
This is like the OC's version of Ross Rachel. We were on a break.
Yeah. So.
But yeah, I feel like we're both like holding back a little bit because we did just watch the finale, and we do want to devote a lot of time and energy to that, because that finale, it was heavy.
Yeah, it was.
So I'll just say again what we've reiterated. Like, my mind is blown by all the plot that is crammed. Again, I have to say it.
A lot has happened.
Because since we last talked about our rewatch segment, so much more has happened.
If we went through all
like
this,
4 episodes.
If we went through all this, and you told me that we had watched 2 episodes or 2 seasons of this show,
maybe even 3,
I would have believed you, because this is an unbelievable amount of stuff that went on. So. All right, so that's the OC season 1, all episodes except for the finale. We're going to get to the finale next week. What else do we have coming up this week? We've got more Ahsoka. We've got more Only Murders in the Building. You've got more
morning show.
Morning show. I've got more Star Trek Lower Decks.
And I'm definitely going to have to get used to our new podcast setup, because I have bammed my nose, my mouth, and my hair and my head on this mic like 30 times. So I think we got to call this one and end it and just say, don't outrun the Mothman.
Give him a big hug.
Give him a big hug, and everybody have a great rest of your day and week. Thanks for listening to this episode of We Watch TV, a podcast about the TV shows we watch. You can find more from Hope and Daniel on Instagram at We Watch TV Podcast. Drop us a line if you like the show, have a question, or a recommendation. You can find Hope on Twitter at Lil Runner and Daniel on Twitter at The Real Hobo Dan. Music for today's podcast was provided by Your Tunes from Pixabay. Artwork was created using the AI program Midjourney with prompts written by Daniel.